Okay, I'm going to do just a quick walk through the factory because I don't think you guys have seen it as video before. And then I'll take questions or run the conversation however we want. So that was the coffee machine area. The main area of interest is that. And there we've got two assembly lines, one and one. Good morning. And here we just finished building a set of, I think, 110-volt machines. Yeah, the yellow is 110 volt. And this is a smaller run than usual because we're using up the 1.3 parts that we've got. So these are the remaining 1.3 machines. Then we're going to make what we're calling 1.3.1 machines, which are functionally identical, but they're the 1.1 chassis with the 1.3 group head in them. The only difference is this USB port on those machines. This is a 1.3. On the 1.3.1, the USB port's here. It's not as clean as I'd like it, but it's also not as messy as it's been. So that's storage, pallet storage next to the factory. And then next to the assembly lines here. So they're preparing to do another run here. That's what's going on. And we have some mirror panels. These are all from the sample run. We tried, I think in the end, 11 different companies. And that's what we have that we think we can use, but they all have some little scratch defect, but those are all going into D1 XLs to be made. And then that's kind of it for mirror panels for a while. This is what our chassis look like when we get them. So this is what we call a preset chassis because there's some work already on it. USB cable, power plug, fan has been installed. So that's preparatory work. That's where Hannaford sits. And over here, so we've got stations for making different things. And this is where we're making the group head controllers. Okay, that's what a group head looks like so. And once they're done, it's a little bit like a bakery. They go in here, and we have stacks of them. Put it on a rolling table so we can then take it to the assembly line. And so there's Eleanor working away at, looks like testing group heads. Yep, that's what she's doing. So these are fully assembled group heads here, and she's doing a pressure test that's been set up. I can't actually see where the chip is. Yeah, so she's got a little pressure gauge right there, and she's wiring everything up, checking for leaks. Oops, checking for leaks, and that's kind of each one gets done that way. Here, this is our flush valve. Do that. These here. And this is an assembly station that has ventilation. So we put the stuff that needs soldering right here so we can suck it out there. So on this side, we're soldering these. This is pump assemblies. This is actually right here. This is a jig that we're in the process of building. We found that pushing these in here really hurt your fingers at the end of the day. This is something Constantine's doing with some PVC tubing and some wood to try and make this less physically demanding. All right, what's going on here? This is a pneumatic wire wrap machine. It's kind of cool. Basically, what this does is it takes this copper wire and wraps it around something. Now, you do that on the temperature sensors and pressure sensors. Anything that soldering, the heat from soldering could possibly damage. You use this thing. And so it's like a solder, but it basically clamps copper wire around two wires. Then over here, these are what we call auxiliary manifolds. This is the Ultim material, okay, which is a in-body resin. It's a medical resin. And that's what we're making over here. This is a big pile of them. And let me take one out. So there, this is the previous generation, which has clear Ultim, and this stuff is not fiberglass reinforced, which is why it's somewhat clear. What this is doing is, put it there, so you can see, this is our water mixing chamber right here. So water's coming in, there's two temperature probes, and water comes out mixed into here. Underneath, there's a pressure sensor right there. That's what's right there. And then if the water is the right temperature, which we're measuring again, so this is hot and cold, and this is mix. If it's the right temperature, I'll show you on the final machine, but it comes out here for espresso. Oh, sorry, that's, yeah, that's here for espresso. That's what we would call a flush valve for pressure release. And then here for hot water, here for steam. So that's our main bridge. And then there's also this PCB right here that has all the temperature sensors that go into it, two big cables back to the espresso machine's main computer. Okay. Behind me, Simon is, I think, repairing stuff, which I'm not sure what he's doing. He's been the guy who can build heaters better than anyone else. All right, this is our rack where finished machines go. Basically what we're doing now is we're doing pressure and temperature tests on the line. So here, you can see on the line, these are catering kits, and there's also power. So when we build the machines, after that, we hook up each machine with water, and then power comes from above here into the machine, so water below the electricity. And then over here, I'll show you that. So that is something I just developed in the last few weeks. So these are pressurized portafilters. And this is a temperature sensing portafilter. You can see I have the temperature sensor there, and it's going to this. This is something you guys can totally build. This is $20 to build this, and we put the plans in the diaspora. Same thing for this. This is lightly leaking. I put a little Teflon tape here, and it's supposed to lightly leak so that we can measure ongoing pressure. It's a variac for creating various kinds of voltages. So for example, we can create a 100-volt Japanese current, but mostly we're using this thing now. We've got a bunch of these, which are much fancier because we can create different hertz as well. So hertz and power, anything from 100 to 250. I think this is the engineering pit. If you're wondering why your tablets show up charged, it's because of something I built a couple years ago. These are all charge stations, so all these tablets stay charged after we load them up. And I've now entered sort of the electronic engineer section of assembly. This here is, so this is a whole stack of DC boards. This is the computer. And what I've got right here is a test setup. So Keith, who's a new hire who started this week, this is his desk. And what we're doing is putting every single DC board through this. So a DC board gets plugged in, and this mess of cables is going into this right here. There we go. So the DC board here is being cabled into this, which is anchored in, which is our test board. And essentially what happens is this turns on, all of this turns on and does all sorts of logic tests against the DC board. And then if there are any errors, there's these numbers here, there's LEDs next to what happened wrong with the DC board. So we know, is it something we can repair on the board, or is it fatal? Either way, all the lights have to light up in order to use that machine. That here is currently not being used, but this is a high voltage board test. And what that does is it lights up various things. Here are the previous generation heaters, and that's the last of them. That's what's going into the 1.3 machines And this is what takes us so much time, because each of these PC boards, that's all solder. So we're getting PC boards, we're filling it with aerogel, there's sensors and stuff in there, and then that all gets soldered. And to make that so it's a nice tidy box requires a fair amount of skill. So Simon, I think, is down to about an hour each to make those. And here's a machine that's going to get tested. All right, finishing up the tour. That's IT. So here are machines that we are trying to match up to a buyer. So these are either machines that are perfect and they're going straight to someone, or they are used machines on the cheap, decent list. So for example, here on the bottom are a bunch of white D1XLs, and I'm going to be listing those after this call. I think, yeah, there's that's a 1.0 machine there. That's going to be 40% off the current price there. What's nice is some of these have mirror panels because they're older models when we could still get them. And we do have some D1XLs with mirror panels. I know, so what these are, these with the white group head controller, glass on top with the black group head, these are the new D1 Cafe prototypes, and we only have 10 of them. And what I did is I put the white glass on top here with a white tablet, so it's kind of like zebra colored, so that we can tell that it's the prototypes. Now, what these are D1XLs, but with 4,400 watts of heaters instead of 3,000 watts of heaters. And we're working on the firmware this week to try and give us more steam. So that's what's happening there. Going to be selling some grinders. We only have 6 grinders left, so I'm going to be selling them cheap, cheap, cheap to try and get rid. There's our original E61 that we borrowed that helped us learn about everything in the world of coffee. And this is kind of the empty area now where R&D and admin happens, because people have been moving into the factory to contribute, to help get involved with that. This is getting emptier. I don't know if, yeah, next door is opened. All right, I'm not going to show you the code. And this is our old factory, which is now a warehouse for parts. And those are all suitcases and, gosh, all sorts of stuff. Because trying to ramp up production means getting larger batches of parts, so more space needed. So this was our original space. And if you look at a video, one of our first videos of spilling the beans, you'll see us sitting right here, waiting for IKEA to deliver tables. And that was a little over 5 years ago. And then that was our assembly room. Then we took the space that I just showed you. And about a month ago, we moved in to that, which is doubling each time. So 3,000 to 6,000 to 12,000 square feet. And this is where all the accessories get boxed. So those are all the accessories there. And the boxing happens here. That's Teddy, who takes care of all the final assembly of machines. So once they're electrically tested, he cleans them up, puts the chassis on, anything that's needed.